JJ the CPA here. So listen, criminal activities, criminal investigations, criminal activity inferred. Wow, those sounds all pretty heavy related to PPP, but that's what's coming down the pike here in the last 24 hours is criminal investigation into taking unnecessary PPP funds. Now, some of that we're hearing is with some of these larger companies, some of those that had access to, basically investor dollars, right? Public traded companies, things to that effect. But don't kid yourself. This isn't where this is going to end. One of the things that many people were forgetting on these PPP funds as they were just kind of getting into a rush of, oh, wow, I got to hurry and get this, right? Got to get our PPP money. We got to get our, payroll in. We're getting ready to shut down. Yeah, it's going to be hard to prove this, but where the criminal activity investigation is coming into is, were PPP monies taken unnecessarily? Okay, and that's a lot of eye of the beholder. But the thing to keep in mind is that on the application, I'm going to read here, the applicant was in operation of February 15th and had employees with whom it paid salaries, okay, as reported. And then current economic uncertainty makes this loan request necessary to support ongoing operations for the applicant. So if you have a business and there really was no effect, maybe you were deemed a necessary business, so you were able to stay open. If you had a lot of cash on the books, right? Is that loan request necessary to support ongoing operations? Well, yeah, I don't know that you necessarily, just because you have cash on the books means you're not qualified. Just because you had to stay open doesn't mean you're not qualified for the funds. But this is what they're looking at. The person that the company, right, that's getting this says the funds, they're certifying this on the application. This is off the PPP application. That's why I'm reading it. The funds will be used to retain workers and maintain payroll and make mortgage interest payments, lease payments, utility payments as specified under the Paycheck Protection Program rule. I understand, this is what it says, that if the funds are knowingly used for unauthorized purposes, the federal government may hold me legally liable, such as charges of fraud. Okay? Everybody's like, oh, I'm talking the federal government here. Like, why are we so cynical about this? It says fraud. Unauthorized purposes. Oh. Well, I've been talking about it for a long time, and maybe there's been a lot of other people talking about it, and there's obviously been a lot of other people considering it. And the reason why is there's been other people out there trying to gig the system, showing how to gig the system, right? I've heard some disgusting stories of CPAs and attorneys going around selling advice on how to take advantage of this, how to make sure you get to full forgiveness. Changing what you were doing to then take advantage of PPP and its forgiveness, the rules under the Paycheck Protection Program, is unauthorized. It's fraudulent. So they're talking about it, okay? And I've got another video that you should watch. I'll put a link to it, but it's about questions 40 through 42 that the SBA came out with yesterday, May 3rd. And it's talking about those employees that are saying, you know what, I'm going to stay on unemployment because I'm making more. And people are getting confused. It doesn't have anything to do with the business is open or closed. If you have an employer that's willing to pay you, okay, then you need to stay on that payroll. And if not, there's going to be consequences, including to the employer, unless the employer documents that in essence. Now, what is that? Well, what it can be for the employee is they're forfeited their unemployment and they got to pay it back. What? For the employer, it can be basically a result in unforgiveness. But the thing about this is that when you hear and you see the word criminal activity, you think of not these things, but these are the words that are being used now by the federal government. Okay? Not by me anymore. I mean, I'm still saying it, right? But the federal government's talking about it. And what they're also, I want to make sure I get the question correct. Dang it. But there's a question in here that you are going to have to be prepared to present this directly to the SBA. So I want to get to that question because I want to read it to you. And basically what the SBA is indicating is that there are going to be audits that are $2 million or more in PPP funds. And they've given some other examples. So you can go to jjthecpahelp.com to find the latest SBA FAQs. But it says, question 39. Will SBA review individual PPP loan files? Yes. I've been saying that all along, that SBA is going to look at these. Now, basically, it's going to review all loans in excess of $2 million. There's going to definitely be circumstances where they're going to review some that are less than. And you know how they select them? Super easy. Right? They're going to look at what was the payroll filed in the prior year, what were the loans. It's so simple, right? I mean, they're going to take line 5 of W3 divided by 12 times 2.5, compare it to the loan amount. Okay, that'd be the first thing. So if your loan's up here because you included 1099s, you got a problem. You need to return those funds ASAP immediately. Now, you don't wait. I got a video on it. But what's good is that questions 40 through 42 in the SBA latest FAQs is on my website, jjthecpahelp.com. There's literally no gimmicks to go to that website and get this info. But it's then talking about what happens if somebody is wanting to pay somebody, but they've gone on unemployment and they don't want to come back. And we're talking criminal activity. Criminal. I want you to think about criminal. What does that actually mean? And when you're talking about the federal government, felony. So I'll just say this in closing, not to scare you, but to make you check yourself. Don't find a way for forgiveness. Just spend it on what you need. Move carefully. Do it exactly what is prescribed by PPP rules in the CARES Act, which is what? It's on your ongoing payroll. Okay? Someone left, you got to replace them. Okay? Are you replacing them so that you can achieve PPP forgiveness? No? Well, then do it. If you're hiring to achieve PPP forgiveness, it's going to be ferreted out. It's in that calculation that you find in 1106. It's going to be in the documents that are being provided as required in 1106E of the CARES Act, which is bringing unemployment files and filings. And part of what's going to be looked at, it seems as though this is going to be the case, is looking at the financial well-being of that business. Now, you know, if you're a mom and pop, as they say, you got a 5,000, a 10, or 15, or 25,000. I don't know that, I don't know how you're not in circumstances where you need that money. You got a 50,000, you're probably in circumstances where you needed that money. 150, 250,000 PPP, probably okay. Meaning like you probably really did need those funds. And you start getting to $500,000 in PPP, not at all am I saying you didn't need those funds, but I think you're in the situation where you're going to be potentially close to being looked at. I mean, if you look at the percentages of how many of these loans are less than 100 grand and how many are more than, I think that threshold's going to get lower and lower. And so all you got to do is this. It's simple. What were your ongoing operations? What were you doing for payroll and rent, utilities, mortgage, interest, benefits, health insurance? What were you doing? Just keep doing that. It's just for 8 weeks. But they're throwing around the word criminal. And I don't mean like, well, we're thinking about it. It's going to happen. And they're already looking at companies right now that took those funds that had access, or they were affiliated groups and they didn't answer correctly or they didn't consider properly. It's going to be really easy to try and figure out, when it's all said and done, who should have got the money and who shouldn't have. So don't be on the side of you shouldn't have. So it's all in the eye of the beholder. And for small businesses, don't be worried about it. If your business was affected, don't be worried about it. This isn't a scare tactic, but it's a scare tactic to say, stay on the straight and narrow on this road. Because it's like, okay, listen, I needed it. I got it. Don't mess it up by then trying to achieve forgiveness. So I don't know. It's interesting that that there's some out there that still think, well, the goal here is achieving forgiveness, or, well, if I don't get forgiveness, I've done something wrong. When really the whole thing is take what you need, spend it on what you need, and return the rest. Don't take more than what you need. Don't spend it on more than what you need, because you need to return the rest. And when these things happen and they start realizing at the higher amounts, then they start coming up with procedures and calculations that go down to the lower amounts. We're seeing a ton of stuff here that's retroactive. In retrospect, you know what? The SBA is saying this, and it applies all the way back. So don't kid yourself. There's no outsmarting this. I've been saying it since the beginning of this. There's no outsmarting this. But this is to say that what I've been talking about is here. Criminal activities are being investigated. Are all these people that are getting investigated, right? Who are you thinking? What do those people look like in your mind right now when you hear that? It's you and me. I mean, it's just people like you and me running businesses, right? They weren't in the back room scheming. But this look back is getting serious. And the reason for it is this money was given in good faith, I think. It was provided in a, hey, if you need it, we want to help you. But what happens is people find how to get in line twice for that free bottle of water, or how to get in line for the free bottle of water when they didn't even need one. Or how to get in line and get the bottle of water that they thought they needed, realize they didn't, but then found a way to not give it all back. And in essence, it just went to waste. So more to come on this, but you know, this is ratcheting up. Ratcheting up. Don't be anywhere near this hot stove. Don't be anywhere near it. Okay? Straight and narrow. All right, hey, thanks for tuning in. I'd love it if you'd subscribe, and then don't you ever forget, you've never met a CPA quite like me.